Welcome back to the bubble, ladies and gentlemen, and Cossacks 3. Today we will be reviewing an incredible game that I played together with Chris and Milkman from the Discord. Both very experienced players and probably two of the best ones we actually have in the Discord. So I'm very honored to be teaming up with them in this one. Like I said, it's a 3 versus 5, so I might very well come to miss some things, and I apologize on that beforehand, but I will try to do my best. It is 30 minutes peacetime. We have storehouses, or log cabins, sorry, and army of peasants, but we do not have a market, and I don't think we have a diplomacy center or diplomatic center either. So this is going to be a very interesting one. Basically, in the first 30 minutes, everyone's just going to do the absolute best they can to get a good economy rolling, as always. But it's a much bigger challenge when you don't have a marketplace. And although we start with an army of peasants, if you're not used to playing it, you don't really know what the hell am I supposed to do with this massive army of peasants. But hopefully we're going to do a good job of going through that. But I'm thinking that I'm going to start with going through the different players in the teams and also the different factions or nations. But it's going to be a pretty long one, so make sure to set up with some snacks and drinks and we can get rolling. Starting off with our team, 3 versus 5, Jesus. And in the top left corner, it's me in, let's call it the somewhat green. We have another green, but it's the green in our team. And I'm going to play as Denmark, my teammate here, Chris. In red, playing as Bavaria. And in the top right, we have Milkman playing as France in the turquoise or bright blue color. And our opponents, I like it a lot that we are lined up like this. That we weren't kind of mixed out, or we could have been like in a diagonal and then been boxed in by someone else. Who knows? But I'm very happy about the positioning that we had here. And in our opponent's team, starting off with pink, we have James playing as Venice, and to the other side of the map in green we have Peps playing as Hungary. In the bottom left we have purple Germany playing as Algeria. In the middle, in the bottom, we have blue Mighty Dragon playing as Netherlands. And in the bottom right, in yellow, we have Boa Conscriptor also as Netherlands. And I'm very happy about us already having the balloon researched. That will make it a lot easier for me to jump between the different players and check what's up, basically, how all of us are doing. And I think this is enough of an intro. Let's just get started. We have 30 minutes of peacetime, so I have a lot of time to go through all of this. Basically, when we play without a market, the minerals become so much more important to get a hold of as soon as possible. So that's why I've started sending all of my peasants out to all of my mines. Of course, gold being the most important one. After that, going for the town halls, mill, and then just trying to go for the basic build, I guess, what you usually try to do. And the problem is that you can't trade for the third town hall. So you're just going to have to make suffice with 2 for starters. So that's what I'm doing, and it looks like Chris is doing the same thing, starting off with the gold mines, and this is a great positioning of his town halls, because now he doesn't need a storehouse, because the peasants will just drop off at the top corner here of the town halls, which is very, very clever indeed. But one thing that might not be good is that the log cabins are not going to be able to protect this section of the map. So in that sense, it might be better to build it behind. But I mean, I trust Chris and his judgment more than I trust my own, for sure. And we can see that Milkman is doing kind of something similar, but for the stone excavation points instead of the trees, getting another point for stone there. And you don't really need to go overboard on stone when you play without a market, because the reason for getting like the second stone excavation upgrade, for example, is to be able to sell a lot of your stone. But in this kind of game settings without a market, then the coal and iron is worth much more than having a massive surplus of stone. But also getting a lot of peasants on wood. Looks like I'm starting to do something similar, although I'm very far behind because I just populated all of my mines right away so I can start setting up those resources. If we go down to our opponents, we can see that Peps has 1 barrack up and running. I don't think I do quite yet. Neither does Milkman or... yes, Chris has 1, getting this academy up and running. But Peps has 1 barracks, and I guess he's gonna go for High Dukes but also 2 mills. I don't think I only went for 1, actually. I need to start getting used to having more mills so I can get more food, basically, without having such a risk that we run out of field capacity. If you go over to James, he already has 2 barracks up and running. Maybe I spent some gold on upgrading the gold mines instead, because the second barrack usually cost 2.5k gold, and another thing that costs 2.5k gold is is 2 gold mines leveled up to level 2. So it's a kind of a balance on how we want to go there, but he is going with the musketeers. It looks like he's getting the first stable up and running as well, so he has a pretty aggressive build when it comes to his military stance. If you look at me, I just now got my first barrack up and running. In the bottom left, as Algeria, we have 2 barracks there as well. Haven't started building on all of his mines yet, but this is very interesting to see, because this placing your dwellings right next to the border here kind of creates a defensive wall if you put them up front, because you can set to delete them if a massive army starts plowing through, and then they will inflict a lot of casualties once they explode. So this is a little bit of a nice trick to play in placing dwellings in a defensive capability. Very interesting stuff indeed. And his town halls are a little bit more spread out. But the problem with Algeria is that they're always going to run out of population space, because their town halls and the barracks don't give as much population space as they do for regular European factions. So that's a bit of a problem that he's going to face. Getting the first stable up and running as well. Algeria doesn't have a lot of good things speaking in their favor, but they do have the Mamelukes, who are very, very decent cavalry. Incredibly tanky, also deals quite a lot of damage, so that's one thing that makes up for Algeria being overall pretty crappy. Here we have Mighty Dragoon, Mighty Dragoon, already got the 3rd town hall up and running. I think I'm stuck on, I actually got 3 now as well. Great. So he has the 3 town halls, making the musketeers. I don't think we have artillery or capture on, so we're going to see a lot of musketeers, for sure. All in all, I would say looking good, falling behind a little bit on points, but not too bad, actually. He is just falling behind compared to Boa Conscriptor and James. Apart from that, he's actually absolutely competing with us. And speaking of Boa Conscriptor, let's see what he's doing that he's doing so incredibly well. Can we see his point of view? No, yes, we can. So he has 48 on gold, and 20 on iron, 20 on coal. So he has built on all of his mines. And I'm guessing that he has gotten... Okay, he's actually going for the 2nd stone excavation upgrade. It's so expensive, though. 12.5k coal for a resource that you're not going to be able to trade to anything. I don't really know what the plan was there. It might be better to go for food to upgrade the mines, but I mean, he is in the lead point-wise, so he's doing something right. That's for absolute certain. Also, getting a 2nd stable up and running, that's going to be great, and... the artillery depot is in place, so now he just needs a cathedral, don't you? Yes. With a cathedral, you're going to be able to go to the 18th century, and already just like 8 minutes of game time into the game. That's not bad. James is another player who's pretty strong point-wise. He's making the Hussars. He's already in the 18th century. Hot diggity. That's fast work. But also, of course, with an army of peasants, you get the resources a lot quicker. But with all the Hussars coming here, that means, of course, that he's going to be he's going to be able to do quite a lot of raids. So we need to keep an eye on that, because fast cavalry, they're going to be able to travel the map much, much quicker than anything else, and we need to have something to counter it. He also has this perfectly offensive/defensive hill right there that's going to be incredibly difficult to take without suffering heavy casualties. I don't really know how Milkman is going to try to deal with that. Milkman has 4 town halls, though, so he has good production of peasants and also a little bit higher population, of course. Now he's going with double cathedrals and an artillery depot, because priests, they heal. So it's very good to have those, and that's something that I'm usually very, very bad at, getting priests to heal your troops. Usually I try to just get the upgrade in the academy that heals all live units. It's pretty cheap, although it takes a while to research. But you shouldn't feel bad for spamming it if you're in combat, because it completely resets the health bar for the troops who are alive. But priests also, of course, do a lot of really good healing. Milkman so far is... Let's see if I can check his... No, I don't think I can. But he hasn't started building on coal or iron mines yet, but if I know him correctly, it's probably because he's putting a lot of resources into upgrading his gold mines and absolutely boom that economy. Interesting stuff indeed. If we look at Chris, how he's doing, he's also going with a double cathedral. Only one barrack yet, though. But I think he has another plan for that, of course. Maybe he rather wants to go into, maybe rather upgrade the mines, or rather want to go into the 18th century barracks a little bit faster, and then the 2.5k, there he got it, the second barrack. So he doesn't save that that gold to the 18th century barrack. But I think he's going to do just fine either way. Let's look at his map. I don't really prefer this, to be honest. I much rather like this positioning that our opponents have, because if we want to take this hill, we need to walk all the way around it and get absolutely shot to pieces by the Netherlands or the Dutch musketeers. So this is a great position for James and also Boa Conscriptor if they hold this one together. Both of them have pretty good defensive positions. James has this little hill, and in the center, Boa Conscriptor can just hold this one. And these hills, or these mountains rather, we need to run through to be able to deal with. But all in all, this hill is really important for me to take in an offensive, but also defensive, of course. Because if I hold this, they will need to run around to attack my base, or simply try to walk through me. So it's going to be very interesting to see in 17 minutes and 37 seconds who is going to be able to take that one. But all in all, what I'm doing, just massing up the musketeers. I am very concerned that I don't have a single stable yet. Very, very concerned indeed. I don't really know what I'm going for. Really, I do have a stable. Maybe I don't see it. And let's see if I can check my game mode. No. Because if I did, I would interrupt the recording. But I'm guessing that since I can go up to the 18th century, I have my necessary buildings. I also have an artillery depot. Okay, I'm not going to look at that anymore. I simply do have enough buildings to get the 18th century barrack, and that works for me. We were talking, of course, throughout the game in the Discord, trying to strategize and set up good tactics as much as possible, and I absolutely bet that I was discussing all of these strategies and all of these choices with them, and actually trying to go to the 18th century barracks before starting to mess around too much with the stables. Although stables are very good to have, because now we can see that Hungary already has their light cavalry, which is their version of an 18th century dragoon. So they have a heavy blow for sure. And they are also making the Sheklis, which are Hungarian 18th century musketeers without bayonet, which means that you can upgrade their firepower in the 18th century barracks. And if you're able to mass up enough of them, they have a pretty slow recruitment time, but if you're able to mass up enough of them, then they will be able to shred through pretty much anything. So I don't really know what I would do differently if I was Peps. Maybe get the 17th century barrack a little bit quicker, but it's already going with the second 18th century, so I can't really complain. And if we look at Germany, I think he's going to try to make some kind of an awesome meat shield to protect the heavy hitters from Peps, because he's just making a whole bunch of Ottoman pikemen. And they might not be very heavily armored, but you can mass up quite a lot of them, because the barracks are a bit cheaper, don't cost any gold to build, I don't think. And you can get a lot more of them, because, of course, Algeria can't go into the 18th century, so they need to have something to balance the scales. Also, 2 stables, and look at this massive army of Mamelukes. Ooh, that's gonna hurt to face that one. And playing 3 versus 5 is always very interesting, because you are constantly going to be outnumbered. Constantly. That's just simple math. Unless you're able to annihilate one very, very early, and that kind of isn't possible with 30 minutes peacetime. But we are still just going to do the absolute best we can, and I am making the 18th century musketeers now from my 18th century barracks, and now I'm starting to build a whole bunch of stables as well. Maybe because I didn't want to waste those resources, I don't know. But if I recall correctly, then the 18th century musketeers from Denmark, they have pretty decent range. At least that's what it used to be in Cossacks 1, that Denmark's musketeers had very awesome range. So you wanted to mix them together with the musketeers, and then they could outreach a lot of different factions. Maybe not like Prussia or something like that, but still quite a lot of them. For sure they can outreach Ottoman pikemen. Absolutely. Still 12 minutes left of peacetime. If we just look at the points, I'm starting to fall behind a lot. Probably because I haven't started building stables until now. But if we look at how Chris is doing, he has 5 stables already up and running, 2 18th century barracks, a whole bunch of town halls, and 2 17th century barracks. And now he's getting the 3rd 18th century up and running. And this is what's difficult when playing without a market, because usually you'd like trade to balance out your economy so you can afford these things. But without a market, you just need to be like clever enough in upgrading your mines, not putting too many people on stone, for example. Instead, having a lot of people on food, so you can afford to upgrade all of the mines. So that's a big challenge for sure. But if you practice it enough, like Chris, for example, then you're gonna master it and you're gonna do just fine. If you go to Milkman, he's also massing up a lot of forces, and you can see all the priests that he's massing up as well, and hopefully they're gonna do a lot of good stuff in healing the troops. He's also going with cuirassiers instead of 18th century dragoons, and that is of course interesting, because cuirassiers, they are just better writers basically, but they soak up a lot of fire from the muskets. They are very good at soaking up firepower, and they also, of course, are very efficient against light cavalry. And who has light cavalry? James has light cavalry. So the cuirassiers, if they are able to lock up the hussars in combat, they will be able to do just fine against them. And we can't really complain about James' tactical mindset here. Of course, he's gonna put himself on the hill, and that's why Milkman now starts building all of these defensive dwellings that I talked about earlier. If he has all these dwellings constructed and this army starts moving in, just delete these ones, and you will drag a lot of Venetian troops into their graves. So very great stuff indeed. Only 9 minutes left of peacetime, so this is a long intro until the game starts, and we also see a lot of these defensive dwellings being set up. I haven't started doing that yet. I haven't started doing any dwellings at all. I do have 4 town halls though, so at least that's something. And I'm going with the 18th century dragoons as my cavalry, and the 18th century musketeers are gonna be the ones who's gonna have to deal the melee damage if push comes to shove. I have 3 18th century barracks, 5 stables, so that's good. I don't know why I waited this long to get them, to be honest. It's just basically gold and wood. But I guess I wanted to spend the gold on 18th century upgrade, and also upgrading my mines. Because rather have too many minerals than too few. Absolutely. Especially when we start shooting at each other. Because then your coal and your iron will run out in a second. Which is another good thing as to why we see the melee infantry, or yeah, basically all the infantry from Algeria, none of them use coal. I don't know if the archers use iron, but I know for sure that none of them use coal, which means that although we don't have a market, you can still sling resources to your teammates as soon as the peacetime is up. So that's why you can't use the send resources option in peacetime. When the peacetime is up, then Germany, as Algeria, will be able to send all of his coal to his teammates, basically, to help them sustain their firepower capabilities. Oh, this is so many dwellings. If he starts destroying this, if I even get the opportunity to walk through here and he starts destroying it, that's gonna hurt like crazy. And the suspense is massive. What are you getting? The writers from Netherlands? They don't really look like regular writers, do they? No, I actually think they do. Just from the back, they looked a bit different. Still looks really tanky and cool, though. And he's making the 18th century dragoons from Netherlands, and a unique unit design. Looks really, really cool. But I still think they are pretty gosh darn lethal. And also a lot of Netherlands musketeers, of course. So the writers, they're actually going to be quite a nuisance for us here. Looks like we are getting some cuirassiers in the mix as well. Yes, we are. So, cuirassiers and reiters, both of them are heavily armored cavalry, which are really effective at soaking up our musket fire. And I don't really have anything to counter that with. I just have a whole bunch of musketeers, 17th and 18th century, and a whole bunch of dragoons. I haven't gotten any hussars or anything like that, but I'm just doing my best to work on just getting a big enough blob, I guess. If we look at the center here, we can see the mighty dragoon. He hasn't sent reinforcements to either James or to Peps. I don't really know what role he's going to play. Probably he's gonna go wherever the need is the greatest, because we already have 2 on the right flank and we have 2 on the left flank, and then he can kind of play the field, I guess, and see what Chris might be up to, because Chris has the, maybe not the very fun job of being in the middle, which means that he needs to be able to support both me and Milkman if Kaka hits the fan, basically. But I'm pretty certain that he's going to be up for that challenge. He also makes a lot of priests to heal his troops. 4 18th century barracks. And another academy. Also, we see these defensive dwellings built here as well. And it looks like everyone is doing that. Except for me. Now I'm just starting to do that. Not too late, because we're still going to be able to get them built until the peacetime is up. Unless my peasants start like dwarping out and they don't finish the dwellings. But at least I'm trying to get them built. And we can see why Algeria needs a lot of dwellings. I mean, their population space is a joke. Oh, that is a massive formation of Mamelukes. Beautiful stuff. Probably one of the more colorful units in the game, I might say. Just look at the shields on these bad boys. Absolutely awesome. And also, I might remember this incorrectly, but I thought that Mamelukes usually rode camels and not horses. But I can absolutely be mistaken on that. Maybe I'm just too tainted of after my Age of Empires 2 gameplays, where I do recall they ride camels. And I'm not feeling very confident about this, you guys. I really don't, because Hungary has a massive force, although it looks like he has bigger formations of his infantry at least. These, I don't think they are 36, rather looks like 32 or 72 formations. But 4 barracks and a lot of pikemen. And if I'm not able to like split up these armies and take them one at a time, or maybe even take this hill, if I'm able to take this hill, then it will be smooth sailing, because they will not be able to outreach me there. But if they are able to take the hill, then I have nothing to attack them with. Which is why it's so vital for me to stand up here, and I really hope that I start doing that. Now I'm just putting all of my units into formation, and we can see that James is also starting to mass up his army, and I'm guessing that as soon as the peacetime is up, we are going to see someone do something aggressive. Milkman puts all of his forces inside the base here. He doesn't set them up to challenge this hill, because he realizes that it would be absolute suicide and he would lose his army in the blink of an eye. He does have 4 18th century barracks though, and it looks like he has 6 stables. So he's pretty much maxed out on military production for the time being. I mean, you could get a 3rd 17th century barrack. I don't think there would be necessarily anything bad with that. But here we have the Chasseurs of France, which is basically the French version of the Hungarian Shekels. So these are, of course, don't have any bayonets, but have awesome range, very good damage once they're fully upgraded, and that's that. But the cuirassiers, of course, are going to be the melee guards, so to speak, since we don't have any bayonets, and we are going to see a lot of hussars from James. Now, peacetime is up. Who is going to be the aggressor? Stuff are starting to be shot here, and I actually moved my army up to take this hill. I wonder if anyone is going to challenge it. I will try to be quick and jump between here. I don't know why I'm starting to move them down. Maybe because I want to start shooting at this army, because I see that Peps is falling behind a little bit. He doesn't really pay attention. Now I'm starting to shoot, and here we go. The Algerian Ottoman pikemen moving straight into the line of fire. and they have nothing to respond with. And just like that, the entire army of Algeria is wiped out with just some priests to grieve the losses. That is brutal to see. And now we're just moving back to reclaim that hill. That was a kind of a cheap shot on me. Here, the Hussars are moving into Milkman's base, but he's only going to kill peasants. They can't capture anything. So, now, Milkman, nerves of steel, absolutely. He knows that the only thing they can do is kill some peasants, and he has more of those. But he is starting to make grenadiers as well. I don't know if they are from the... Yes, they are from the 18th century barracks, so they would be able to deal quite a lot of damage with the grenades. Chris is also moving in from the northeastern side into Pep's base. We're kind of trying to split their armies up here. Oh, and sorry, now we're going to get some lag into the game because a lot of us have a lot of units. And now I'm kind of hesitant about going in here because if my army gets stuck here, if I need to put it here and they start destroying dwellings, then it's goodbye to that army. So instead I'm trying to move down here, finish off the purple one, and maybe come in from the western side instead. Chris still stands there, and now Milkman is starting to move in to James's base. But we see this giant army in the middle. That's not something fun to face, but fortunately Chris has a massive army in reserve while he just sent a small piece of it over here. Are we going to see an attack? Yes, we are. And unfortunately for green, he didn't use the minimap to move his troops, so they broke formation. They're no longer blobbed up, which means that Chris and his dragoons will be able to deal a lot of damage. Not really uncontested, but they will not lose as many troops as they might have. Just look at all these units that should be standing on top of each other, and instead they're getting mowed down one at a time. Very, very fortunate for Chris. And at the same time, I'm starting to move down here from the western side, wiped out the purple army, and it's kind of spawn killing them. But here we see the power of the Mamelukes, and also we have the log cabin here that's going to be absolutely shooting down my troops. I just pulled back some of my musketeers so they can get better options to shoot at the Mamelukes. And also, of course, we have 18th century musketeers killing with bayonets. The Mamelukes are gone, and so is a lot of the Hungarian army. This looks like a GG from the green player. Not sure yet, though, because we just see that he destroyed a lot of his mines, and he still has a lot of military buildings live, so until they start going up in flames, we cannot be certain yet that he's actually surrendered. Up here, we can see that Milkman actually moved back his army because, oh my god, I'm so sorry I missed all of this. But it looks like James pushed in with an army, fought back Milk, but now Milk is just going to absolutely annihilate those Hussars that come in. And Peps still think he might have something left. But with when buildings are destroyed for no reason, especially like mines and things like that, then you can just count on them being surrendering. And now I'm actually moving in with my army to try to kill Germany as Algeria, just pushing in as much as I got, just trying to take as much pressure as I can. Speaking of pressure, we have cuirassiers from the Netherlands. I guess that's Boa Conscriptor, right? Yeah, moving in with cuirassiers who are going to tank a lot of musket fire, and also some stragglers from James coming in, and they're just going to be shot down very, very quickly from Milkman's army. In the meantime, Chris is moving around the center. He's got a lot of free kills here. And who is going to turn around? Is Chris going to move back? Reposition his army. He's putting them into broadside, getting some shots. Just look at all the blue corpses here. And Mighty Dragoon is pulling back his troops. Who is going to be the aggressor here? Who has the best range, basically? It looks like they will keep dancing around each other and trying to outflank whichever they can. And we have a stalemate. Is any one of them going to move back in? Maybe not. Yes, Chris just got a beautiful angle here. And if he just keep pushing after, he's going to annihilate the blue army before they're able to even respond. Now they turn around with some of the troops, but they will keep moving on and keep dancing with each other. But now Chris has the absolute perfect angle to just shoot at this line, and they're not going to be able to do anything except turning to broadside. And in the meantime, I'm trying to reposition my army. I'll push some of them down to just keep pushing on Germany. Here we have it. Finally, the confrontation. We have a lot of pikemen from Chris moving up to tank a lot of the damage. And just look at that. That is firepower, ladies and gentlemen. It just melted them away like butter. Absolutely beautiful. Well done, Chris. Now we just need to see what it's going to do about this. And in the meantime, Milkman's base is being attacked by Boa Conscriptor, but we have wiped out at least almost 2 of the players. And Germany still doesn't have that much strength left with me standing in his base. But the Cuirassiers, they are tanking a lot of damage, but they are also fighting Cuirassiers, who are also very heavily armored. And also, as the cherry on top of the sundae, or strawberry on the sundae, they also are supported by very, very heavy hitters from the Musketeers and the Chasseurs from France. Moving in, killing, and just mopping up what's left. Now it looks like Boa Conscriptor's army is actually on the move, while Chris has most of his army pushing in to attack Mighty Dragoon and try to wipe him out. I really need to start doing something with my army to attack, attack Germany again. But I am a bit hesitant because of these things. I need something to destroy the log cabins. Otherwise, I'm just going to get absolutely mowed down by them. And I really don't want to suffer that. We can see that Boa Conscriptor had the same issue as, I think, was it Peps who had that earlier, maybe? That the formations are no longer clumped up because it didn't move on the minimap. So now all of them are getting shot down. Are they going to move in with their entire army or just be happy with them getting killed one at a time? Very, very unfortunate positioning of the army. They are just moving in without responding to the fire and getting shot down. But now, for example, it looks like the game started lagging. No, now they started shooting again. They are still just walking in, not responding. Just moving up, getting to position, and getting shot down. Very easy pickings for the red player here. Now they're starting to move in with some Cuirassiers. Still, the Musketeers doesn't shoot. I wonder if they might be running out of coal. Don't think so, though. But that is the entire army almost being wiped out. Because they didn't even try to attack. They just stood there, happy to get mowed down. Very unfortunate for yellow. If we look to the right side of the map, oh, Chris is moving in on blue now. He also has a lot of Grenadiers, just destroying all the military buildings. And I don't think Mighty Dragoon is going to want to play ball for much longer. As soon as you see those grenades start flying over your buildings, usually a lot of people call GG. Now Milkman has finally caught this little hill, and in the meantime, he's moving in from the western side. Don't really have the best positioning, though, with just this thick-ass line, and not on broadside. But he's doing a decent amount of damage as is. And now he needs his Grenadiers to start taking down this log cabin, because just look at this. Absolute fish in a barrel, but fortunately the Grenadiers were able to destroy it very quickly. Now they just have the second one to destroy as well. And in the meantime, yellow, or Boa Conscriptor, is just remassing his army on this little hill. But all of us are basically behind that hill now. I mean, I'm wiping out Germany, killing his base, and also finally I have some Grenadiers to start destroying the log cabins. And also we have a massive army of Mamelukes here. I don't know why I start running back and forth, because I just need my Grenadiers to get into position to destroy that log cabin. And this is the final charge of the Mamelukes. They have the supportive fire of the log cabin, which is absolutely shredding through my troops, but they are just not many enough. And now I'll start coming in with the Grenadiers, so I can start destroying that filthy log cabin, and now we are a little bit safer to destroy the rest of the base. But yellow, oh golly, he's moving up all of his peasants as well. Just look at this. That's a final hurrah, if I've ever seen one. Just look at this massive line of people. I wonder if it was a misclick. No, he's actually moving up with all of his peasants. Is he going to try to take Chris's base with peasants? I know, I've seen stranger things happen, I guess. But Milkman is moving straight into his reinforcement lines. So, he's not going to be able to reinforce that army if he loses it. And we also see that we see an 18th century barrack from Netherlands put up here on this hill. So it's going to be a little bit harder to take. But just, oh, look at all these peasants. Don't you have better use for them? Maybe not. I mean, there just comes a point in the game where you have basically infinite amounts of food and infinite amount of stone and wood, and you're just waiting to get enough gold, basically, to get the next stable or the 18th century barrack up. Fortunately, now, finally, can my Grenadiers please start destroying the 18th century barracks? And here we see it. They are moving in. They have a lot of peasants, just doing a last-ditch effort. Not even putting units into formation. Just put all of them there, and we'll see what happens, I guess. And these peasants are standing closer to Milkman's army, basically. He would be able to attack them here. And in the meantime, Chris is moving in to attack Boa Conscriptor's base with his giant army, and Boa doesn't even have any peasants to defend themselves with. In the meantime, Milk is coming in from the northern side, and Boa's days are pretty much numbered unless this bears fruit. A giant mixed army, no rules, no formations, a whole bunch of peasants in there acting as meat shields. Poor bastards, they don't have the best stats for a fight, but they can soak up a bullet or two, that's for sure. At least they have the hill, and I guess they're just gonna start moving in, trying to kill whatever they can. But Chris is very content, just sitting back here, executing whatever comes in range. Just look at that. Very sad to see for the yellow player, but just look at what Chris has to respond with. And in the meantime, they just move up and get absolutely mowed down. How's it going here? We still have another mixed army of peasants and musketeers and some dragoons as well. And they are probably just going to get shot down, or killed rather, by the chasseurs or the cuirassiers. And it looks like we're starting to have a little bit of a stalemate here. Chris is still standing in Boa Conscriptor's base, shooting wherever he can. Doesn't really face any bigger contests here. He needs some grenadiers to take out that log cabin, but then he's good. We can also see that all of the buildings here has been set ablaze by Mighty Dragoon, and I'm guessing that that is a GG from that player. Germany, is he still making troops? He is, but he has I have actually destroyed a lot of the mines. Basically all of them with my grenadiers, so he doesn't really have that much left to sustain this military production. But if he wants to keep fighting, who am I to tell him no? But now we see a lot of buildings being destroyed here as well. I wonder why. Right, yep, there we go. That is a GG from Boa Conscriptor, I guess. Dwellings being destroyed without really... Or you just want to kill some of these people, or some of these units. And here we go, some debris is flying, and he got some chasseurs out of that, but not a lot. Now, I am actually starting to move in with some of my dragoons. Don't really know why. There's not a lot of things for me here to fight against. But now we're just trying to clean up everything and try to get all of them to surrender, basically. But because there are players who, although they don't have anything left, they just stay recruiting and stay into the game. Just, I don't know if it's out of annoyance or what, but they stay in. And just look at this log cabin. That log cabin is doing a number on my dragoons, but fortunately, some grenadiers destroyed it, and I suffered some casualties there. Not good, but at least we got the log cabin destroyed, and now the same thing is going to happen with a barrack. Whenever that explodes, we're going to have a lot of collateral damage here. Kaboom! Debris just mowing through my poor dragoons. Not fun. Not fun. But I am willing to bet that the game is over now. James still has some points, but he's not producing. He is actually producing some things, but no one's shooting, and that is because everyone has surrendered and the game is over. So this, ladies and gentlemen, was a 3 versus 5 with 30 minutes peacetime and no market and no diplomatic center, but we still managed to make it work. Great teamwork, of course. We had great communication, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And I think that's it. Please let me know if you liked the video by liking or leaving a comment if you have any tips or tricks or other suggestions. Have a great day and take care. I will see you in the next one.
The Weird Bubble.